In the late 90s, first-person shooter games were primarily driven by high-octane action and fast-paced combat. While these games were entertaining and dominating the market, they lacked the element of narrative and compelling world-building. But it all changed when a freshman gaming company released their first ever IP titled Half-Life in 1998. Half-Life revolutionized the gaming industry and proved that a first-person shooter can be a narrative-driven medium rather than a mindless shooter. The gaming community wanted more of Half-Life, and exactly 6 years later, the sequel Half-Life 2 was released. Half-Life 2 was developed and published by Valve Corporations. The original team, which worked on the first game, returned for the sequel. The main story and plot were developed by Mark Laidlaw. Robin Walker, along with John Cook, were the key programmers and designers for Half-Life 2 and worked on developing the Half-Life engine, which became the Source engine later in development. The development cycle for Half-Life 2 started just 6 months after the first game, and the team wanted to create the best FPS game of all time. The team was given no deadlines and virtually an unlimited budget by Valve's president, Gabe Newell. Half-Life 2 is a first-person shooter that blends a mix of action, exploration, puzzle solving, and a narrative-driven gameplay. It builds upon the foundations set by its predecessor Half-Life, but innovates in many ways, offering an immersive experience that was way ahead of its time. Half-Life 2 was designed with a broad audience in mind, but it was especially intended for players who appreciated innovative gameplay, immersive storytelling, and challenging first-person shooter experiences. More specifically, the game was catered to teenagers and young adults.
Over here! Help!
The objective of the player in Half-Life 2 is to endure, survive, and escape. The game involves managing weapons, health, and armor while solving environmental puzzles. As the game progresses, the players uncover the true nature of the otherworldly forces which have taken over the world. The overarching goal is to uncover the truth behind the invasion and the conspiracy involving the incidents occurred in the first game.
About that beer I owed you.
Character design in Half-Life 2 is an integral part to its immersive world building and storytelling. The idea was to create characters who have been oppressed for years by an alien regime. The silent protagonist of the game, Gordon Freeman, is a blank slate, allowing the players to project themselves into the character and allowing the players to also interpret his story and experience in their own personal ways. Other prominent characters such as Alex Vance, your companion throughout the game, dons a practical and functional attire suited for the harsh conditions of a war-torn world. Her practical wardrobe emphasizes her readiness for action and her adaptability to challenging situations. The everyday citizen characters of Half-Life 2 are the reflections of the oppressive Combine regime. They are characterized by muted colors, simple designs, and uniformity. The citizens often wear similar clothing and haircuts, further reinforcing the idea of a collective identity and a lack of personal expression. The Combine soldiers have an imposing and dehumanized aesthetic. Impersonal armor, faceless helmets, menacing stance, and movement creates a sense of fear and intimidation while symbolizing the dehumanizing nature of the Combine regime. Many of the characters in Half-Life 2 were modeled after real people using a 3D wireframe scanning process. The people used for the models were also not professional, rather just regular people you see in the street. The characters of Eli Vance and Dr. Kleiner, who are genius scientists, were modeled after a homeless man and an accountant. The idea was to create a more realistic and relatable world, and this approach allowed the developers to capture the wide range of human expressions and emotions. Half-Life 2's core gameplay primarily emphasizes on first-person shooter combat, where players will engage in intense gunplay firefights. Players will be handed a huge arsenal of weapons to choose from based on the situation they're in and enemies they come across. Traditional weapons such as crowbar, pistols, submachine guns, and shotguns give a sense of familiarity to the players, as these are default weapon choices in many other IPs. Half-Life 2, however, provides a unique tool called the gravity gun, which allows the players to manipulate the physics of almost every object in the environment. Players can pick up and throw objects, create covers from enemy fire, create pathways to navigate, and solve environmental puzzles with the gravity gun. The physics engine of the game also creates a unique gameplay experience for the players with the gravity gun, where picking up and throwing heavier objects kills the enemies instantly, while lighter and smaller objects deal minimal damage. Throwing sharp weapons like a saw blade completely dismembers enemies as well. Distinct enemy types who change over the course of the game also offer a diverse gameplay experience for the players. Each enemy type will possess their unique weapons based on the narratives of the game. For instance, the first enemy you will face will be civil protection soldiers who attack you with pistols and stun buttons, while higher ranked enemy soldiers such as Overwatch and Overwatch Elite soldiers will attack players with submachine guns, shotguns and rifles respectively. Sophisticated enemy AI allows the enemies to communicate within themselves to coordinate attacks and ambush players. Players will have to strategize their attacks and use the environment to their advantage to terminate the combined soldiers. One gameplay chapter of the game, titled Ravenholm, mixes horror and environmental puzzles to offer a gripping experience to the players. The gameplay section also limits the ammo spawn and forces players to use environmental objects to defeat a new yet familiar set of enemies which are alien creatures from the world of Zen. The zombie enemies are slow but high in numbers. The undead zombies are low in numbers but very fast, while the variety of headcrabs are annoying, unpredictable little creatures who strategically hide in corners to catch players off guard. The players will have to ration ammo and use environmental items to escape the town of Ravenholm. My personal favorite gameplay and environmental storytelling of Half-Life 2 arrives in the chapter titled Sand Traps. A new alien species called the Antlions have occupied the dried sea lands of the world. Stepping on the sands will activate the predatory instincts of the Antlions and they will swarm the players in an instant. The Antlions are the weakest of the Half-Life 2's enemy roster but can be frustrating to fight due to them attacking players in such high numbers. In the final hours of the Sand Traps chapter, players will have to navigate from point A to point B without touching the sand. The players will have to use the gravity gun as a tool to pick up objects around their vicinity to create a path to reach point B, which is easier said than done. But once you complete the gameplay section and fight off the Antlion guard in a huge battle, the game rewards the players with the ability to control the Antlion themselves using an instrument called the Pheropods. Players can use the Pheropods to summon Antlions and use them as allies to fight against the Combine, which is a captivating gameplay mechanic. Gunplay is a core gameplay mechanic of Half-Life 2, and by blending physics-based environmental interactions, the game does an amazing job of making combat as engaging as possible. This is evident in the final chapter of Half-Life 2, where players are given a supercharged gravity gun and allows us to beat God for a spell. Half-Life 2 is renowned for its masterful pacing, expertly balancing intense action sequence with slower, more atmospheric moments. After every intense combat section, the game transitions to smaller scale gameplay sequence for players to catch their breath. The game can be played on 3 modes, which are easy, normal, and hard. In easy mode, all the enemies are easier to kill and the spawn of ammo, health packs and armor batteries are increased. Normal mode offers a well-balanced experience with the enemies being challenging and the spawn of loot items being reasonable. In hard mode, the enemies will be more relentless, have a higher health and the player's weapons will only do minimum damage. The loot items will also become scarce, posing a real challenge for the players. But the difficulty can be changed at any moment during gameplay without having to start the game over again. Half-Life 2 features an amazing save system, providing flexibility allowing the players to save their progress at any point throughout the game. But players should be mindful that wrong save at the wrong time will end in a catastrophe. Half-Life 2's audio-visual style is a blend of gritty realism and stylized elements, creating a distinctive and immersive world. The game pushed the boundaries of graphic technology of the early 2000s era and delivered stunning visuals that blend photorealism with stylized elements which still hold up to this day. Half-Life 2 primarily employs a muted color palette, reflecting the oppressive atmosphere of the Combine-controlled City-17. Grey dominates the scene, symbolizing monotony and conformity. Brown accents represent the natural world, contrasting with the sterile cityscape. Blue, primarily used in Combine technology, highlights coldness. Red, a rare color, signifies danger, power, or aggression. This careful color section creates a visually striking and emotionally resonant world, reinforcing the oppressive atmosphere and highlighting key elements within the game. Half-Life 2's music, composed by Kelly Bailey, is subtle yet effective. It often appears as background noise, subtly underscoring the player's actions and emotions. The music erupts during intense moments such as combat encounters or dramatic story revelations, heightening the tension and excitement. The use of silence is equally important, allowing the player to focus on the environment and the story unfolding before them. This careful balance of sound and silence creates a truly immersive and unforgettable experience.
Come on, Gordon. We've got to get out of here. Maybe we still have...
Time, Dr. Freeman? Is it really that time again?
Half-Life 2 is a masterpiece of game design, stunning visuals, immersive sound design, and a gripping narrative. Its detailed world building, unforgettable characters, and intense gameplay has solidified its place as one of the most influential first-person shooter games of all time. The game's careful balance of action, exploration, and puzzle solving creates a truly unforgettable experience. Half-Life 2's gameplay is a perfect blend of intense combat, exploration, and puzzle solving. The game's innovative level design keeps players engaged with each new area, offering unique challenges and rewards. The combat is fast-paced and satisfying, with a variety of weapons and abilities at the player's disposal. The puzzle-solving elements add depth and strategy to the gameplay, requiring players to think critically and use the environments to their advantage. While Half-Life 2 ends in a cliffhanger and leaves many questions unanswered, it provides a satisfying conclusion to the main story and sets the stage for future adventures in the Half-Life universe.
In the meantime, this is where I get off.
Lamar? Lamar! Blast that little... Where did she get to?